All right, so get ready to put on your detective hats for this one, folks, because today we are taking a deep dive into the world of a special educational needs coordinator, or SENCo for short. Now, whether you're considering this career path yourself, or maybe you're about to meet with a SENCo, or even if you're just curious about what they do, you are in the right place. Because get ready to get very well informed.
It's a good thing, too, because understanding this role is more important now than ever.
You're absolutely right about that. We got some really interesting info here from RoleCatcher, which, as you know, is a job seeker platform.
Yeah.
But don't worry, we're not selling anything here. We just really love digging into these guides. So are you ready to channel your inner Sherlock with me on this one?
I am. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So let's just jump right into it. What exactly does a SENCo do?
So, a SENCo basically ensures that children with disabilities are getting an education that helps them to thrive. You can kind of think of it as creating a custom learning experience for each child.
Okay, so it's not necessarily about helping kids keep up in a, traditional classroom setting.
Not at all. It's really about understanding that special needs can actually mean a really wide range of learning differences. And then, designing and implementing support systems that empower each student to reach their full potential.
So like if a student learns best visually, the SENCo would make sure that they have access to things like visual aids and alternative teaching methods, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And SENCo really digs deep too. They'll work closely with teachers, parents, and even specialists sometimes. And they create, have you heard of an IEP? It stands for Individualized Education Program.
I have heard of an IEP, yeah.
Okay, so they'll create an IEP for each student. And this program, it outlines their specific learning goals and accommodations and their needs, strategies tailored to that child.
Wow, so it's really about removing those roadblocks, whatever they may be, and finding creative workarounds to help those students thrive. That makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned IEPs. Is that something that SENCo actually creates themselves?
They are very key in that process. Yeah, absolutely. Because SENCo doesn't just throw support at a problem and hope for the best. They are constantly reviewing research and evaluating different interventions, and they adjust strategies based on a student's progress.
Wow, so they really are like educational detectives, constantly looking for clues to help each child succeed. So let's say a student is struggling with reading. What kind of things might a SENCo look for in that situation?
Well, they might consider things like dyslexia, or visual or auditory processing difficulties. Even anxiety around reading can be a big factor. It's all about understanding the root cause of the struggle, not just, addressing the symptom, right? They will observe the student in the classroom, talk to their teachers and parents, and maybe even conduct assessments to really pinpoint those specific needs.
It sounds like a SENCo needs to be a master of so many skills: observation, communication, problem solving, empathy. That's a lot. So where do they actually do all of this work? Is it all classrooms all the time?
That's a common misconception. While schools are definitely a primary workplace for them, you'll also find SENCos in hospitals and even government agencies and nonprofit organizations. It's actually a really diverse field.
So this isn't just a desk job.
Not in the slightest, no. You'll find yourself in classrooms, meeting rooms, and even homes sometimes, as you collaborate with teachers and families, therapists, and of course the students themselves.
Wow, that's amazing. So the guide also mentioned that the work environment can be challenging at times. What are some of the hurdles that a SENCo might face?
Yeah, it's true. This role definitely has its difficulties. For one, it can be really emotionally demanding. You're working with, vulnerable populations, often advocating for students who may not be able to advocate for themselves.
Yeah, like you're constantly wearing so many hats. Advocate, detective, strategist, cheerleader all at once. That's a lot to juggle, I imagine. That emotional toll can be really significant.
It can be, yeah. And then there's another layer to consider, the paperwork. IEPs and reports and assessments, it's definitely a vital part of the job. But it can feel pretty overwhelming at times. And on top of that, you're often navigating a pretty complex system of regulations and policies, so that can be a challenge in itself.
Right, so you're not only advocating for the child, you're advocating for them within this very specific system. Talk about a balancing act, wow. But let's talk about the positives for a second, because the guy does mention job security as a big plus for this role. And I imagine knowing that you're making such a real difference in these kids' lives is incredibly rewarding, right?
Absolutely. There's really a unique sense of fulfillment that comes with this role. Seeing a child really blossom because of the support that you helped put in place. I mean, that's what makes it all worthwhile, honestly.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so for those who are listening to this right now and thinking, sign me up, where do I start? What does the path to becoming a SENCo actually look like? Is it a direct path? Like, do you need an education degree or what?
It's not always a linear path, which I think is kind of cool. While some people do come from a traditional education background, a
Yeah.
lot of SENCos actually have degrees in psychology, counseling, social work, even speech and language therapy.
Right. So many different avenues. It makes sense that you need a deep understanding of how people learn and develop, not just, the academic side of things. So what would you say is the common thread among all those different paths you just mentioned?
Passion, definitely. You have to be really genuinely invested in the well-being and success of these students. And of course, a deep understanding of child development and learning differences and, how to create inclusive learning environments. Um, the RoleCatcher Guide also highlighted the importance of staying updated on the latest research and best practices.
Which makes sense. It's such a constantly evolving field, right?
Yeah.
What's an example of like a recent breakthrough or approach that's kind of changing the game for special education?
Well, there's been some really fascinating research lately on neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt and how targeted interventions can actually, rewire neural pathways to help improve learning outcomes. It's pretty amazing, and it's led to some exciting new therapies and teaching strategies that are showing incredible promise. And then there's also the use of assistive technology that's really exploded in recent years. We're talking about everything from text to speech software to interactive whiteboards that make learning more accessible and engaging for students.
I love that. It's so cool. I love that this field is always pushing the boundaries of what's possible. That's great. So let's say someone has the passion, they have the knowledge, they're up to date on all the latest research. What does the career ladder look like? Is it a one-size-fits-all climb, or are there different branches?
Think of it more like a choose-your-own-adventure novel. The guide outlines three main stages: entry-level junior and senior SENCo, each with increasing responsibility and leadership opportunities as you progress.
Okay, cool. So paint a picture for me. What's life like for a brand new entry-level SENCo? What are they actually doing day to day?
Okay, so imagine you're fresh out of university, eager to make a difference, right? As an entry-level SENCo, you are often the right hand of a more experienced SENCo. You're assisting with everything from implementing support programs to actually gathering information about student needs. You might even be supporting students directly in the classroom, providing, individual or group instruction, monitoring their progress, helping adjust their support strategies.
Gotcha. So very hands-on, lots of direct interaction with those students and teachers. That sounds like an incredible way to learn the ropes.
Oh, absolutely. You're building those relationships, you're honing your skills, and you're gaining a really deep understanding of just how complex special education can be. And then, as you gain experience, you might progress to a junior SENCo role. And at that point, you're managing and coordinating those educational support programs, you're assessing individual student needs, and you're also developing those specific interventions. This stage is really all about collaboration. You're like the bridge between the teachers, the parents, the therapists, everyone involved in that student success.
I love that. The guide mentioned ensuring a holistic approach to support at this level. What does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it means really recognizing that a child's educational needs are completely intertwined with their social, emotional, and physical well-being. It's not just about the academics anymore. You're thinking about the whole child and advocating for their needs in basically all areas of their life. This often involves conducting meetings and discussing progress and addressing concerns and, just navigating those sometimes really tricky waters with both empathy and expertise.
Yeah, for sure. And then we reach the summit, the senior SENCo role. What does leadership look like at that level?
So at this point, you're not just managing programs, you're kind of shaping the entire special education program. Within a school or an organization, I mean. You're developing these comprehensive strategies, you're collaborating on those IEPs, you're even leading professional development for your colleagues, and you're advocating for resources and policy changes at a much higher level.
So you've gone from an advocate for the student to an advocate for the educators as well, making sure that everyone has the tools and knowledge to create that truly inclusive environment.
Precisely. You become a champion for change. You're staying current on the latest research, sharing those best practices, advocating for the rights of all students to reach their full potential.
Wow, that is a career path packed with growth and opportunity. That's amazing.
Yeah.
From hands-on support to actually shaping entire programs. It seems like there's really a place for all kinds of passionate educators within this field.
There really is. And the learning never stops. The guide actually mentions specific certifications that a SENCo can pursue to kind of level up their expertise even further.
Oh, interesting. Did any of those stand out to you?
Well, knowing that you're personally drawn to those cutting-edge therapies that we talked about?
Uh,
The whole world of neurodiversity and supporting those learners, did any of those particularly pique your interest?
yeah, absolutely. Is there like a specific certification path that someone could take if they're really interested in that area?
There is. You could look into becoming a certified autism specialist or maybe a certified learning disability specialist. Both of those really delve deep into those specific areas. But then there are also, of course, more general certifications like the special education teacher certification or the special education administrator certification. Those are great for really broadening your skill set further.
So many options. It's great that there's really a path for everyone, no matter where their interest lies. It kind of speaks to the fact that this isn't just a job. It's like a commitment to lifelong learning for the SENCo and for the students, which I love.
Absolutely. And as we talk about, lifelong learning and the future of education, we can't forget about the role of technology. We touched on assistive technology a little bit earlier, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Totally, yeah. The guide mentioned things like personalized learning platforms and data-driven interventions. What's the deal with those?
It's really amazing stuff. Just imagine a world where educational software can adapt to a student's individual learning pace and provide that really tailored instruction and support in real time.
Wow.
We're talking about platforms that can actually identify a student's strengths and weaknesses and then adjust the curriculum and activities accordingly. It's like having a personalized tutor available 24/7,
That's incredible. And I bet that's so helpful for those students who need that little extra support.
It really is. And it's not even just about that individualized learning. It's the data-driven interventions that are changing the game too. Imagine being able to actually track a student's progress as it's happening, identify those areas where they might be struggling, and then adjust their learning plan instantly.
So cool.
We can gather such detailed data now on how students learn best, which lets us personalize those interventions in a way that was never possible before.
It really does feel like we're entering this whole new era of special education. It's exciting. It makes you wonder, with all of these advancements, and with that focus shifting more toward this really personalized learning and support, could we actually see a future where, like, how we define special needs changes completely?
Now, that is a fascinating question. It really challenges us to rethink all of our assumptions and kind of imagine an educational landscape where learning differences aren't just accommodated, but they're celebrated.
I love
A
that.
system where every child is empowered to learn in a way that works best for them, regardless of labels or limitations.
That's a really powerful vision. I love that. And
Yeah.
SENCos are right there on the front lines, making that vision a reality.
Absolutely. They are truly the architects of inclusion, the champions of possibility. And as we continue to, break down these barriers and embrace these new innovations, their role will only become more important.
I completely agree. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. Wow, we've covered so much. We've really gotten to explore the heart of what it means to be a SENCo, from the day-to-day to the truly profound impact that they have on their students' lives.
It's been my pleasure. And if our listeners take away just one thing from our conversation today, let it be this. Behind every single great SENCo is a passionate heart, a curious mind, and an unwavering belief in the potential of every child.
Hear, hear. I love that. Thanks for joining us on this journey today, everyone. Until next time, keep asking those questions and keep diving deep.